The rain fell in relentless sheets, turning the cracked pavement into a mirror for the neon lights above. He stood there, drenched, unnoticed by most, but not by them. The group gathered outside the upscale restaurant, laughing, exchanging expensive watches and careless jokes, their eyes full of contempt as they glanced his way. To them, he was nothing. A stray. A stain on the perfection of their world. One of the men, smirking, tossed a coin at his feet. "Buy yourself something nice," he sneered, his friends chuckling. The coin spun, glinting under the streetlight before rolling into a gutter, lost forever. But the man they mocked did not flinch, nor did he bend to pick it up. Instead, he smiled a slow, knowing smile that carried the weight of something none of them could have imagined. He had once been like them, standing in places where wealth opened doors and power bent the world to his will. But that was before the contract, before the loveless marriage that had tied him to a life he had never asked for. They saw a man in tattered clothes, a ghost of misfortune. What they did not see was the empire that still belonged to him, hidden beneath layers of deception. His wife? No, not his wife. His business partner, by force of law, believed he had vanished, that he had accepted his fate and disappeared from her carefully curated life. But he had only stepped into the shadows, waiting. Inside the restaurant, she sat at a candlelit table, her fingers adorned with rings that gleamed under the dim lighting. The man across from her whispered something, and she laughed, a melodic sound crafted for appearances. She thought she was safe. She thought she had won. After all, she had locked him out, ensured that his name was as good as erased. The contract had been clear. He would receive a fraction of the wealth, a mere pittance compared to what they had built together. A marriage in name only, orchestrated for convenience, severed in silence. What she had not counted on was the loophole. The rain intensified, and the man outside took a step forward. The group had already dismissed him, turned their backs, oblivious to the storm that was not just in the sky, but in the air around him. He had spent years playing the long game, watching as she maneuvered, as she manipulated, as she gathered those around her who would do her bidding without question. She had assumed him dead to the world, an inconvenience buried under the weight of his own misfortune. But what she failed to realize was that he had never stopped watching, never stopped listening. A phone rang in her purse. She hesitated, glancing at the number, then silenced it. The call was from a blocked line, but she knew. A whisper from the past, a specter she thought she had exorcised. Her fingers trembled for the briefest moment before she reached for her wine glass, steadying herself with a practiced elegance. The man across from her noticed but said nothing. He, like the others, believed her untouchable, unbreakable. Outside, the man pulled a small, worn envelope from his pocket. It was the last piece of the puzzle, the document that would turn the tables in an instant. He had let her build herself up, let her believe in her victory, let her construct the illusion of control. But now, it was time. The rain masked his approach, his steps silent as he entered the building. The maitre d' glanced at him, about to object, but something in his gaze froze the words on the man's tongue. He walked past without a word, weaving between tables until he stood at hers. For the first time in years, their eyes met. Hers widened, her carefully constructed mask slipping for a fraction of a second before she recovered. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice even, but he could hear the tension beneath it. He placed the envelope on the table between them. "You should read it." She hesitated, then slowly reached for it, her nails tapping against the paper as she pulled it open. The words inside drained the color from her face. The contract had never truly been in her favor. He had ensured that long before she ever signed it. A clause buried within legal jargon, hidden beneath seemingly innocuous phrasing. She had never owned everything. He had never lost it all. He had been waiting for this moment. The man across from her frowned, sensing something was wrong. "Is there a problem?" he asked, but she could not answer. Her world was crumbling in real time, the floor beneath her tilting as she realized she had underestimated the man she thought she had discarded. The storm outside howled, rattling the windows. The city moved on, unaware that in this small corner of the world, the past had returned with a vengeance. She had played her game well, but he had played it better. And as he walked away, leaving her frozen in place, he knew this was only the beginning. Because some battles are not won with power or wealth. They are won with patience. And he had all the time in the world